Hello everyone, I'm Archdeacon Bill Gray and I'm the Anglican parish priest of Bobcaygeon, Dunsford and Burnt River. And I'm speaking to you from my backyard in this time of COVID-19 pandemic. This is Holy Week, and as we approach Good Friday, I wanted to share with you my Good Friday meditation. Behind me you will see two trees that have yet to produce life this spring and are leafless. Many of us that have had trees on our property know the need there is to care for and prune trees when they are lifeless in anticipation that they will have new life in the spring with leaves and new growth. When I was younger, my family owned a cottage property on the St. Clair River, and on this property was a huge willow tree that spanned the entire circumference of our yard on the water side. It was over a century old, and it provided for us not only a source of beauty, but it also shielded us from the wind and shaded us from the sun and protected us in times of storms. Over the many summers that we resided and vacationed on this cottage property, we experienced many thunderstorms, one of which, wherein on occasion my daughter was standing by my side, this huge willow tree was hit by a huge bolt of lightning with a flash that exploded bark from the trunk of the tree, and my daughter, Chelsea, dropped to the floor in fright as we watched from inside our cottage through the glass windows. Over many years, this tree suffered many such attacks and strikes by lightning, and in the process, the tree became very damaged and deteriorated. My father, who is very wise in these things, advised that the tree would have to be trimmed. And so, as I was away to college at the time and attending university, I left it in his very capable hands. I came back one summer to visit after this tree pruning had taken place at the direction of my father, and I discovered that this beautiful great willow tree that spanned our entire circumference with endless branches of twigs and leaves that required us constantly to clean up after it had suddenly been reduced to only 4 main trunks that comprised the base of the tree. There wasn't a branch and there wasn't a leaf or twig left on it. In my shock at seeing our family friend so trimmed back and, to me, damaged, when my father appeared on the scene, I exclaimed to him in disappointment and concern, "You've killed our willow tree." Patient and understanding as always, he just looked at me with that kind of look that a father sometimes can only give his young adult son and say, "Someday he'll understand, but not today." Years later, when my father was in hospital and suffering from cancer, and indeed he was terminal and palliative, as we gathered around in our sorrow and disbelief, we could not understand how our mighty tree, our father and our family, had been so seriously and severely trimmed and pruned back. He was but a shadow of his former self. And as we waited upon his bedside, speechless and not really knowing what to say in our own discomfort and our own hurt, I heard a voice. I'm not sure where the voice came from. Perhaps it was a voice from inside me. Perhaps it was my father's words. Perhaps it was only a memory of what we had shared. Perhaps it was a voice of spirituality. But the voice said to me, "Remember the willow tree." For what happened to this willow tree is that even though it had been trimmed back to only 4 main trunks, in the ensuing years, this willow tree grew back to be just as great in span and width and circumference as it had before. It was restored to its former glory. As any of you know, that unlike many other types of tree, you can almost take any old branch of a willow tree and stick it in the ground, and it will come back to life, and it will span new growth. In this time in our parish of Bobcaygeon, Dunsford, and Burnt River, in the community of Bobcaygeon, where we have experienced so much loss of life, 27 have now died who were residents in the Pinecrest nursing home in our village, and 4 who have died were members of our church family, and all, whether church members or beyond, were mostly known to our community, their families and their friends, our loved ones. We are in sorrow and grief at this contemplation of Good Friday in our own loss. Our Lord's passion and our Lord's sorrow are very real experiences for us. And the hope in the resurrection seems on the distant horizon for us at this time. I implore you from my own story and memory and faith to remember the willow tree. Remember that in our own experience of nature, things that are sometimes so severely pruned back and seem damaged and destroyed can yet breathe new life and become for us once again an object of beauty, something in which we can reside in its shade, and something that protects us from the winds and storms of life. Our Lord was crucified on a tree, the old rugged cross, and the tree of death on Easter became for him the tree of life. As we reflect on and contemplate and in our personal devotions pray and reflection of the cross at this time, may that cross that is full of sorrow, may that tree of death become for us soon in the Easter hope our tree of life.